Hi there, do you recognise this statue? I bet most of you don't know who it is. I didn't when I was your age. Do you know what he's doing? Looks like he's pointing to something important. Yes, he's pointing to Adelaide, the city of Adelaide. Any of you know why he would be doing that? Well, the man's name is William Light, Colonel William Light, and he was an army officer who had served in the English army and fought against Napoleon, the famous French emperor. William sounds and looks like a very important man. Does his last name ring any bells? William Light. Light. Light Square. Light Pass. Lower Light. Colonel Light Gardens. Has anyone heard of these South Australian places? Yes, they were all named after William Light. Let's now go on a little journey through time to see what happened here on the Adelaide Plain nearly 200 years ago. Trees, forests, gum trees. This view hasn't changed much from when the original peoples of the Adelaide region, the Guana, Aborigines first encountered white man nearly 200 years ago. The Adelaide Plain would have looked a similar colour, much of it covered in gum trees. A city on the banks of the mighty River Torrens. It's far from a river. It's not much more than a large creek, but it was chosen by William Light because of its scenic beauty to be the central part of the city of Adelaide, dividing the southern larger business part of the city from the smaller northern residential area. Here you can see the Port River and the place where the city was nearly going to be. Yes, William Light only narrowly won a vote to have the city of Adelaide next to the Torrens River, 8 kilometres inland from the port of Adelaide. You can also see Holdfast Bay, not much of a bay, but Light named it Holdfast after safely riding out a storm in his ship in the spring of 1836 before he landed. Let's step into Light's shoes on the 3rd of October 1836. I'm standing in roughly the same spot as William Light did when he landed in one of the Rapid small boats in 1836. The Rapid was the name of the Light sailing ship, and yes, the town Rapid Bay near Normanville is named after this ship. This was in the day when it took about 4 months of quick sailing to travel from England to South Australia. 4 months. That's longer than a school term. Imagine that. This spot was also close to the landing of Governor Hindmarsh in his ship called the Buffalo. Once ashore, the passengers put up tents and huts, gardens were planted, and the colonists persevered with heat, rats, mozzies and flies while waiting for Colonel Light to finish his survey and the sale of the land in the new capital of Adelaide. Let's have a closer look at what the Buffalo, and for that matter the Rapid, would have looked like in 1836. The HMS Buffalo. HMS stands for His Majesty's ship. These days it would be Her Majesty's ship. Can anyone guess why? England has a queen called Elizabeth, but in William Light's time they had a king also called William, William IV. And his wife, the Queen's name was Adelaide. Aha! And they named Adelaide City after her. Look at this ship, it's fantastic. It's made out of wood, so it must float well. It's a sailing ship, but this one, which is not the original, doesn't have its sails up. Would you like to be tossed and turned for 4 months on the journey from England to South Australia and have no TV, no DS, no Wii, or flushing toilets? And no, they didn't have aeroplanes 200 years ago either. I'm standing near one of the most famous spots in South Australia. This is the old gum tree. It's a funny looking tree, all bent over with age. Much of the wood is now gone and it's been preserved in concrete. But as the story goes, this is where South Australia was proclaimed. What does that mean? Have any of you heard of Proclamation Day? Maybe some of you have. It's one of South Australia's public holidays, but no one seems to worry too much about it because it is on the 26th of December, one day after Christmas, so most people are on their summer holidays and don't take any notice. Proclamation Day is South Australian public holiday because it was on the day in 1836 when the first Governor of South Australia, Governor Hindmarsh, read out the official letter proclaiming South Australia as a new colony of England. Back then, in the mid-1800s, Australia was part of a British Empire and we were not a separate country, but belonged to England. So what's that got to do with the old gum tree, you say? Well, as I said earlier, apparently as the story goes, Governor Hindmarsh read out the proclamation letter standing under the old gum tree. Where do you think this is? It kind of looks like native woodland or national park, doesn't it? Well, it's neither. Yes, it's the Adelaide Parklands. This is one of William Light's greatest achievements, the planning and surveying of the city of Adelaide, including the surrounding parklands. The idea was based on the city of Philadelphia in the United States that was established 150 years before Adelaide was established, and it also was surrounded by parklands. The Adelaide Parklands are a big area. They're over 2,000 acres or 800 hectares. That's about the size of 400 footy ovals. But it was always designed to be used not just for sport and recreation. When you've been to Adelaide, you've probably visited the museum and the art gallery and maybe even the Royal Adelaide Hospital. Well, it's places like these that were also intentionally built on the Adelaide Parklands. Thanks, Colonel William Light. This is the central part of the city of Adelaide on the River Torrens. This part of the river has now been turned into a lake. I think Colonel William Light would be pretty happy to see what it looks like today. So, Adelaide has had quite an eventful beginning. From the landings in the sailing ships at Holdfast Bay in the spring of 1836 to the controversy over the site of the city and the well thought out design of the city and parklands. If only William, that is Colonel William Light, could talk now, what a fascinating tale he could spin.